All right. So blockchain, blockchain, blockchain.
Everybody's talking about it.
It really does feel that way, doesn't it?
It does.
Like it's everywhere you turn, there's another headline about blockchain.
Yeah.
Another exciting use case.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of us, it still feels kind of like this big, mysterious, slightly intimidating thing.
Right.
Like, we know it's important.
Yeah.
We know it's probably going to change a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But actually getting down to the nitty-gritty of what it is and how it works,
Yeah.
that's where things get a little fuzzy, right?
Absolutely.
And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive.
Let's demystify it.
Exactly. We're diving headfirst into Chapter-09-BaaS-and-Dark-Web.
All right.
Trying to make sense of this whole blockchain landscape.
Good.
And this chapter, let me tell you, it goes deep.
It does.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
we need to lay some groundwork, right?
Yeah.
Because this chapter throws around terms like public, private, consortium blockchains.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I need a little refresher on what those actually mean.
Yeah, it's important to understand those distinctions.
So can you break those down for us?
Sure. So imagine you're trying to get into a party, a private blockchain. That's like that really exclusive club, you know?
Okay.
You got to be on the list.
Yeah.
Got to know the right people.
Gotta have the password.
Exactly. Only authorized individuals or entities can get in.
Right.
Now, a public blockchain, on the other hand,
Okay.
that's like a public park.
Okay.
It's open to everyone.
Anyone could just stroll right in?
Exactly. No one controls it.
Right.
Anyone can join in.
Okay. So we've got private, very exclusive, public open to all.
Mm-hmm.
Where does consortium fit into this party analogy?
Think of like a club, but it's got a members-only area, but then other sections that are open to the public at specific times. So
Yeah.
it's controlled by a group,
Okay.
but the access levels, they vary depending on who you are and what you're there to do.
Okay, so it's like a hybrid approach. A
Exactly.
little bit of both worlds.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, so we've got our private, our public, our consortium.
Hmm.
But then the chapter goes on to compare public blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum
Mm-hmm.
to sewer rats.
Chuckles softly.
Right.
An interesting analogy.
Not exactly the most glamorous image, is it?
Not quite.
I mean, when I think cutting-edge technology, I'm not usually picturing rodents in the sewers.
Yeah, here.
But maybe there's more to this comparison than meets the eye.
There is. It's about resilience.
Resilience.
Public blockchains, because they are so exposed, right? They have weathered it all. Hacks, crashes, countless attempts to control them,
Wow.
and yet they persist.
So it's like they thrive in those tough conditions.
Exactly. They've proven to be incredibly difficult to kill.
Okay, so those sewer rats, those public blockchains, they highlight why this whole permission spectrum is a big deal.
It's fundamental.
But how does this resilience, this ability to survive, actually play out in the real world? Why should we, the average person listening to this, care about these distinctions?
It all comes down to control, security, and speed.
Okay.
Who governs the network? How fast can transactions be processed? How secure is the data?
Right. Those are pretty important questions.
Absolutely. And the answers will vary depending on the type of blockchain we're talking about.
So a private blockchain might appeal to, say, a bank
Right.
where privacy and control are paramount.
Exactly. They need to know who's accessing their data and what they're doing with it.
Makes sense. But a public blockchain,
Yeah,
its openness, that could be ideal for something like a decentralized application.
absolutely. Where transparency is key.
Right, where everyone needs to see what's happening.
Exactly. It all depends on the specific use case.
So the type of blockchain really dictates how it can be used and who might find it valuable.
Precisely. It's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
It's like choosing between a scalpel and a hammer. They both have their uses, but you wouldn't use them interchangeably.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered our digital rodents.
Yeah.
We've explored the blockchain ecosystem.
Yes.
Now let's move on to something a little more palatable.
Okay.
Something that doesn't evoke images of sewers.
I'm intrigued.
Let's talk BaaS. And no, I don't mean brunch, though that does sound pretty good right about now.
Brunch can wait.
Brunch can wait, exactly. We're talking about blockchain as a service.
Right. A game changer.
And it sounds like it's changing how businesses are approaching this whole blockchain thing.
It is. It's all about making blockchain more accessible.
More accessible? Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
But the chapter, if I'm being honest, it kind of glossed over BaaS.
Yeah.
Like a drive-by explanation.
Right. It's a big topic.
It is a big topic. So can we unpack that a bit further? What's the big deal with BaaS?
Sure. Imagine you're building a house, right, from scratch. You've got to lay the foundation, frame the walls, handle the wiring. It's a huge undertaking.
It's a massive project.
It is. Now, BaaS is like opting for a prefabricated home.
Okay.
You get a functional structure much faster and often cheaper.
All right. So far, so good. I like where this is going.
But you do sacrifice some customization.
There's always a trade-off, isn't there?
There is.
So instead of blueprints and contractors with BaaS, I'm basically walking into a blockchain showroom and picking a pre-designed model.
Light chuckle. It's not quite that simple.
Right, of course not.
But you've got the right idea.
Okay, good.
And just like in construction, you have these big players offering their versions of these prefab solutions.
So who are we talking about here? Who are the big players in the blockchain construction world?
You've got your IBMs, your Microsofts, your Amazons. They're all in the game.
Wow, so the big tech giants are setting up shop in the blockchain world as well.
Oh, absolutely. They see the potential.
And I imagine this BaaS model, it's a game changer for businesses that want to explore blockchain without that massive upfront investment.
Exactly. That's the whole point. It lowers the barrier to entry, making this technology more accessible.
More accessible. That's got to be a good thing, right?
It is. But, and this is crucial, it also has significant implications. We're talking about potentially handing these tech giants the keys to the blockchain kingdom.
Okay, so now we're getting into some of the potential downsides.
Right. It's not all sunshine and roses.
Because this trade-off between convenience and control,
yes,
that feels like a potential minefield.
It can be. You have to be careful.
So let's talk about those dangers.
Yeah.
What are some of the things we need to be wary of when we sacrifice control with BaaS?
Well, when you rely on a third-party provider, you inevitably give up some control, right?
Right.
You're trusting them with your data security, your privacy, and the long-term viability of your chosen platform.
Okay, so trust is a big factor here.
Huge. Imagine building your business on a BaaS platform that becomes obsolete.
Oh, no.
Or even worse, gets acquired by a company with completely different priorities.
That's my worst nightmare.
It happens. That's why it's so important to carefully consider the provider and the long-term implications before jumping in head first.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially when that basket is controlled by someone else. Okay, so we've talked about the convenience of BaaS, we've talked about the potential downsides, but this chapter, it took us on quite a trip.
It did, didn't it?
We went from sewer rats to prefab homes to, well, let's just say a slightly shadier part of the internet.
We did venture into the shadows a bit.
We did. This chapter also took us on a trip to the dark web.
Amused indeed. A fascinating, if somewhat unsettling place.
It is, and I think for a lot of us, the dark web has always seemed like something out of a spy movie.
Right, shrouded in mystery.
Exactly. Hackers in dark hoodies, shadowy figures making deals in smoky back rooms.
The imagery is pretty pervasive.
It is. But we're talking about the truly hidden dark web here, right?
Right.
Not just your password-protected online accounts.
No, this is a different beast altogether.
Okay, so help me understand the distinction. What makes the dark web so different, so hidden?
The dark web it's intentionally hidden.
Okay.
You can't access it through standard browsers. Remember that iceberg analogy from the chapter?
Vaguely.
Okay, well, imagine an iceberg. The part you see above the water, that's the surface web, everything that's easily accessible.
Okay, I'm with you.
But the majority of the iceberg is hidden beneath the surface.
Right.
And that's where the dark web exists. It requires specific software, like the Tor browser, to access its hidden network.
So it's like you need a special key to unlock this hidden part of the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like a real iceberg, the dark web can be a dangerous place.
Because, as the chapter highlighted, it's often a haven for illicit activities.
Right. Activities that thrive in the shadows.
And it sounds like these activities, they're often fueled by the untraceable nature of cryptocurrencies.
That's right. The same properties that make cryptocurrencies attractive for everyday transactions. The anonymity, the decentralization, the security also appeal to those operating in the shadows.
So it's like this double-edged sword, this technology that can be used for good or for ill.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting.
Because it brings us right back to our blockchain conversation, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It's like this digital ecosystem where blockchain technology plays a role in both the legitimate and the not-so-legitimate sides of the equation.
Precisely. And understanding that duality is crucial as we navigate this space.
Okay, so if cryptocurrencies are the preferred currency of the dark web, does that mean blockchain is essentially a tool for criminals?
Not at all. While it can be used for nefarious purposes, it's crucial to remember that blockchain is just a tool. A hammer can build a house, or it can cause harm. The technology is neutral. It's the application that determines its impact.
Okay, that makes sense. But this whole dark web connection, it does make me wonder about the whole untraceable aspect of cryptocurrencies. Is it really impossible to track these transactions?
That's where things get really interesting. While cryptocurrencies offer a degree of anonymity, they're not entirely untraceable. In fact, blockchain's inherent transparency can also be a powerful tool for good.
Wait, so even with the anonymity, there's a chance you could be tracked? That seems counterintuitive. How does that work?
That's the beauty of blockchain. Every transaction is recorded on a public ledger, meaning it can be traced. The chapter mentions a study by MIT researchers.
Oh yeah, what was that about?
Well, they were looking into the dark web, specifically how anonymous it really is.
Okay.
And they discovered that a surprising number of transactions could be traced back to their source, all thanks to blockchain's transparency.
So it's like this digital trail of breadcrumbs, even in the darkest corners of the internet.
Exactly. You might think you're operating in the shadows, but blockchain has a way of shedding light on even the most clandestine activity.
So it's like this double-edged sword. Anonymity for those seeking it, but with the potential for accountability built right in.
Exactly. It's a fascinating paradox.
And I'm guessing this whole traceability factor, it has some pretty big implications for law enforcement and anyone trying to combat illicit activities in the digital world.
Absolutely. Law enforcement agencies are increasingly using blockchain analysis to track illicit activities.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's becoming an invaluable tool in their arsenal. And as this technology evolves, we're likely to see even more sophisticated methods for ensuring accountability.
So blockchain is like this constantly evolving landscape with the potential for both good and bad.
Exactly. And it's up to us to harness its power responsibly.
Well said. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the different types of blockchains. We've explored the world of BaaS. We've even ventured into the shadowy depths of the dark web.
We have. It's been quite a journey.
It has. But throughout all of this, there's one term that keeps popping up. A term that, frankly, sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. And that is...
smart contracts.
Yes, smart contracts. The building blocks of a decentralized future.
Okay, building blocks, decentralized future. That's a lot to unpack.
But first, let's start with the basics. What are smart contracts?
In essence, they're self-executing contracts written in code and stored on the blockchain. Think of them as digital agreements that automatically enforce the terms agreed upon by everyone involved.
Okay, so it's like an unbreakable digital handshake.
Essentially, no more shady lawyers or loopholes.
Okay, that part I like. No more legal jargon.
Well, there's still a bit of that, but the beauty is that the code itself enforces the agreement.
So it's like having an impartial digital judge overseeing every transaction.
Exactly. And because it's all on the blockchain, it's transparent, secure, and tamper-proof.
Okay, so we're talking about increased efficiency, increased transparency, increased security.
Precisely. And the potential applications, they're vast. Remember that smart CV project mentioned in the chapter?
Vaguely. Refresh my memory. I remember thinking it was a kind of a weird use for blockchain.
It might seem unusual at first, but it perfectly highlights how versatile smart contracts can be. Imagine a world where resumes, qualifications, work history, it's all stored and verified on the blockchain.
Okay.
No more embellishing your skills or faking degrees.
You're saying I can finally ditch my fake PhD from that online university?
Oh, I wouldn't recommend that.
Right, of course not.
But the point is, everything is transparent and verifiable by potential employers.
So we're talking about a future where you can't lie in your resume because the blockchain will call you out.
Exactly.
That's a game changer for job hunting.
It is. It brings a whole new level of transparency and efficiency to recruitment.
Wow. Okay, so we've got our tamper-proof resumes. What else? What are some other ways these smart contracts could shake things up?
The possibilities are pretty much endless. The chapter touched on supply chain management, making sure products are ethically sourced and tracked every step of the way.
Interesting.
Secure voting systems.
No more hanging chads.
Exactly. And even things like decentralized insurance.
So no more dealing with insurance companies. Sign me up.
Well, it's not quite that simple, but you get the idea.
It seems like smart contracts could revolutionize almost every industry.
They really could. It's about automating trust and creating a more efficient, transparent, and secure way of doing business.
It's like we're on the verge of a world run by algorithms.
In a way, we are.
Which sounds both incredibly exciting and a little terrifying all at the same time.
It's understandable to feel that way. It's a big shift.
It is. But if these smart contracts are going to be handling such important processes, voting, supply chains, maybe even our resumes,
All right.
shouldn't we talk about the potential downsides? I mean, no technology is perfect, right?
You're absolutely right. Smart contracts, for all their potential benefits, are not without their challenges.
So let's dive into those challenges, because I think it's important to understand both sides of the coin before we hand over control to these automated agreements. What are some of the potential downsides? What do we need to watch out for?
Well, one concern with smart contracts is this whole idea of garbage in, garbage out.
Okay, explain that one to me. I'm not sure I follow.
So if the smart contract is poorly coded,
Right.
or if it's based on inaccurate data,
Okay.
consequences that can be pretty significant.
Because it's automatically executing those flawed instructions, right?
Exactly. And once that contract is deployed on the blockchain,
Yeah.
it can be really difficult, sometimes even impossible to modify.
So it's like once that contract is set in stone, there's no going back.
Pretty much. So you need those developers to be incredibly meticulous.
Yeah.
They got to think through every eventuality.
Because one tiny error
Right.
could have massive ripple effects.
Exactly.
Okay, so garbage in, garbage out. That makes sense. What about security? I mean, we're talking about contracts that are essentially handling valuable assets, right?
Absolutely. Security is paramount with smart contracts, and it's a huge concern.
Because if someone can hack into that code,
Right.
the consequences could be disastrous.
Oh, absolutely. And it has happened. There was that high-profile case a while back, involved something called a DAO.
A DAO,
Smart.
that's another one of those blockchain buzzwords.
Decentralized Autonomous Organization.
Okay, well, what is it?
Basically, it's a kind of organization that's run by code, by smart contracts.
So like a company, but without the CEO and the board of directors.
Exactly. But in this case, the DAO smart contract, it had a vulnerability.
Okay.
And hackers were able to exploit it.
What happened?
Millions of dollars. Gone. Stolen.
Ouch.
It was a stark reminder that even with all the security benefits of blockchain technology, vulnerabilities can still exist.
And those vulnerabilities, they can be exploited
It can.
with real-world consequences.
Absolutely. It's a constant arms race.
So even though we're trying to automate trust with these smart contracts,
Right.
we still have to be wary of the bad actors out there.
Always.
Always trying to find a way to game the system.
It's the nature of the beast, unfortunately.
It is. Okay, so we've covered some of the potential downsides of smart contracts. The importance of good coding, the need for robust security. But I think it's also important to acknowledge that we're still in the early days of this technology.
They are. It's still evolving.
So there are bound to be bumps in the road.
There are.
We're going to encounter unexpected challenges.
Absolutely.
But those challenges, those bumps, they shouldn't overshadow the incredible potential of blockchain and smart contracts.
Exactly.
Right?
We've got to keep our eyes on the prize, so to speak.
So as we start to wrap up our deep dive into this chapter,
Okay.
what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from all this?
Blockchain technology, with all its complexities, all its potential pitfalls, it's more than just a passing trend.
It's here to stay.
It is. It has the power to revolutionize industries, empower individuals,
Okay.
and fundamentally reshape our digital world.
Wow, that's a pretty big claim.
It's not an exaggeration, but just like any powerful tool, it requires careful consideration,
Right.
a healthy dose of skepticism.
I think we've got that covered.
Good. And most importantly, a commitment to responsible development and use.
Because at the end of the day, it's up to us to decide how this technology is used.
Exactly. We shape the tools, and then the tools shape us.
Well said.
Yeah.
It's like we've been handed this incredibly powerful toolbox,
Yeah.
and now it's our responsibility to figure out what we're going to build with it.
What are we going to create?
What were we talking about again? It was something about resumes, right?
Yeah, we were discussing the Smart CV project and how smart contracts can revolutionize recruitment.
Right. It's like having a foolproof system for verifying credentials.
Exactly. Imagine a world where employers can instantly verify your qualifications, work history, everything.
No more embellishing those skills or inflating job titles.
The blockchain would expose any discrepancies instantly.
Talk about accountability. Okay, so we've got tamper-proof resumes. What other exciting possibilities are out there with smart contracts?
Well, the chapter mentioned a bunch of them. Supply chain management, for example. Imagine being able to track a product from the moment it's manufactured to the time it reaches your doorstep.
And I'm guessing this would apply to all sorts of products.
Everything. From coffee beans to car parts, the whole journey. Fully transparent and traceable on the blockchain.
That would be huge for ensuring ethical sourcing and combating counterfeiting. What else?
Secure voting systems. Imagine a world where elections are truly tamper-proof, where every vote is recorded and counted accurately on the blockchain.
No more hanging chads, no more recounts that drag on for weeks.
Exactly. And we could even see smart contracts revolutionizing the insurance industry.
Okay, tell me more about that. How could smart contracts change insurance?
Imagine insurance policies that are automatically executed based on predefined conditions. Say you have flight insurance, and your flight is delayed. The smart contract could automatically process a claim and send you compensation without you having to lift a finger.
That would be amazing. No more battling with insurance companies to get what you're owed.
It's all about automating trust and efficiency.
It sounds like smart contracts have the potential to change, well, pretty much everything.
They really do. It's like we're on the cusp of a technological revolution.
It's both exhilarating and a little daunting, isn't it? But, as with any powerful tool, we need to proceed with caution.
Absolutely. We've talked about some of the potential downsides, and it's crucial to keep those in mind.
Because, as amazing as these smart contracts seem, they're only as good as the code they're written with, and the people who are writing that code.
Exactly. It all comes back to responsibility. We need to ensure that these technologies are developed and implemented ethically and with a focus on the greater good.
It's a delicate balance, isn't it? Embracing the potential while mitigating the risks.
It is, but I'm optimistic. I think we're up to the challenge.
Me too. And I have a feeling this is just the beginning of the blockchain revolution. There's so much more to explore, so many exciting possibilities on the horizon.
Absolutely. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, I want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this journey into the world of blockchain.
It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you.
And remember, this is a constantly evolving field, so stay curious, keep asking questions, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to shape the future of blockchain. Until next time.